Okay. We need to be on the same page.
Okay.
All right. And so I don't want to be confused. But I remember you telling me he's on the burn pile.
Mm-hmm.
Were you lying about Scott? Is Scott, I mean, you think what? You tell me what happened.
I can tell you that there should not have been as much damage as there was done.
I don't know what that means.
That body should not have been burned up.
This case is about Gary Wayne Farris. And you're here because Melody Farris shot him, concealed his death by putting him on a burn pile on their property like he was trash. This is not a chess match or a well-played orchestra, as Miss Farris would lead you to believe. This is murder, and it is not a game. Murder is the highest crime we have, and it is your duty to hold people accountable when they commit that crime. Murder does not happen often in Cherokee County. You are in a unique position as a juror, as a Cherokee County citizen, to make sure that remains the case. And to hold people accountable who commit those crimes in your county, to your citizens. You have heard 3.5 weeks of evidence, maybe 4, I've lost count. But today, I'm going to go over the law with you and how you apply that law to the facts and the evidence that you've heard. The law instructs you to determine the facts. The facts are for you to determine. We have presented you the evidence, the witnesses, the exhibits, but you get to determine what happened in this case. And then you will apply the law that the judge instructs you to those facts. You are bound by the law. After the judge instructs you on the law, as he stated he will do for about 40 minutes or so, you will be armed with not only all of the materials that we gave you, the evidence, but you will also have the tools, which is the law. You will be in the position to convict Melody Farris. We talk about duty a lot, a juror's duty. You took an oath. The object of the discovery, the object is the discovery of truth. It is your duty to seek the truth of what happened to Gary Farris. You are not to seek doubt. All of the evidence before you points to her guilt. It is not your duty to go through all of that evidence, to find all the holes that are unreasonable, and to come up with some hypothesis that it doesn't even make sense. Your duty is the truth. And see, the defense wants you to ignore all the evidence that points to their client's guilt. They don't like the truth. They're going to lead you in a different direction. That will not make sense. That is not reasonable. Stay on the path of truth, and you will come to the conclusion to convict Melody Farris. The defense is going to talk about the state's burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. As the state, we have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. But that is just that, a reasonable doubt, the doubt of a fair-minded, impartial juror seeking the truth. If there's a doubt in your mind, it has to be reasonable to acquit. It cannot be a doubt that makes no sense that you have no answers for. That's not a reasonable doubt. And in this case, we have proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. All of the doubts that they're going to get up here and try to plant in your mind are not reasonable. And the evidence shows that. And the law demands it. The defense is going to want you to believe that this standard is unattainable. They may even show that stair-step picture that they showed in opening of each burden as it gets higher and higher with reasonable doubt at the top. You cannot define reasonable doubt with steps. It is defined in the law.
All right, we're going to hit pause on the prosecutor's closing argument. Here we have to slip in a break. We'll get you back in the courtroom live next.
Each day with my mother was pretty much the worst day of his life.
And she screamed, "I can't wait till the day he dies."
It was just a weird feeling. It's just something did not sit right.
So you would financially benefit if your mother is convicted of murder?
You know, I guess you could say that.
The prosecution says there was only one person responsible for Gary Farris's death, and that is the defendant, Melody Farris. Let's go back in and hear more of their arguments now.
It is defined in the law. It is not to a mathematical certainty. It is not beyond all doubt. Beyond all doubt is unattainable. Crimes are not committed for everyone to solve and know about every single detail. Crimes are committed and concealed because no one wants to be caught. That's what you have in this case. No square circles. Essentially, that's what the defense is going to want you to figure out. How to make this circle into a square. You can't do that. That's impossible. The pieces fit together and they show the truth. We asked you in jury selection about your experiences in your life, things that you've been through. We're asking you to bring your common sense and reasoning into that deliberation room. Do not leave it behind. Because common sense and reason gets you through life. That's what you need to apply to this case. You make inferences, you can make deductions, and reach the conclusions based on what you know, what you've experienced, the evidence, your common sense. That's how you'll reach the verdict in this case. In the beginning of this case, you were informed that you must be an impartial juror, not biased to either side. Impartiality, that's the starting point. And that she has the presumption of innocence. Well, that was 4 weeks ago. That was before you heard all the evidence. That was before you actually realized that she's just cloaked in all her lies. You no longer are impartial. You have all of the information, all of the evidence. And that leads to one conclusion, which is that she's guilty. She is no longer presumed innocent in your eyes. That is no longer where she sits. There are two types of evidence that the judge will instruct you on, direct and circumstantial. A lot of shows and podcasts and commentators, they all say, well, it's just circumstantial. Right? We've all heard that. But the law says you give whatever evidence, whatever weight to whatever evidence you want. There is no legal difference between circumstantial or direct. You could have the most convincing circumstantial evidence, and yet the direct evidence is just, well, maybe. Or you could have evidence that's actually both. Let me give an example. I have a 3-year-old, and the other night he was eating dinner at the table, and I ran upstairs to go get his sister's pajamas or something. We have a box of cookies on the counter by the cookie tin. They weren't in the cookie tin, they were in the box. And I come downstairs, and he had crumbs all over his face. There was a cookie missing. And so, based on that circumstantial evidence, I could infer my child stole a cookie out of that cookie box. I'm not going to infer that some cookie fairy came into my house and took it. That's not reasonable. But that is circumstantial evidence. Now, had the box been knocked over on the floor and the crumbs sitting there on the floor and my dog is laying on the couch licking his paws, well, that scene points to my crazy dog probably jumped on the counter, got a cookie out of the box and ate it on the floor. I don't have to see who took the cookie to know who took the cookie. And the scene leads me to believe it's one or the other. Because I know my child and I know my crazy dog. So circumstantial evidence is a conclusion that you can reach based on inferences. Direct evidence is something you heard, saw, tasted, smelled, Scott seeing blood on the floor in the basement. All of the testimony you heard, those are things that they experienced firsthand, the witnesses. It's direct evidence. There is no legal difference. You give whatever weight to whatever piece of evidence you deem appropriate. You get to determine the credibility of all the witnesses in this case. To do that, you can consider all the facts and circumstances of the case, and on the next slide there's going to be a non-exhaustive list of other factors. In this case, motive, bias, all of those come up. Scott, Emily, and Chris will not get their father back. Whether they get up there, they have no motive to lie to you because Gary's not walking back through that door. That's their mother. They have no reason to lie. They don't want this. They don't want her sitting there. They don't want Gary gone from their lives. All they wanted is for you to have the truth. Martha, she is the epitome of a credible witness. Look up credible witness in the dictionary. It's a picture of Martha Barton. She loved Melody. She knew it was the right thing to do to come in here and tell you people the truth, because you need to know the whole story. She had no motive to lie. Consider all of these factors when you're giving credibility to a witness. All of the facts and circumstances which they testify, their manner of testifying, their means and opportunity of knowing facts, the nature of the facts, the probability or improbability of the existence of that fact, the interest or lack of interest in the outcome of the case, and their personal credibility as you observe it. You actually weigh people's credibility every single day without really thinking about it. You choose who your friends are, you choose who you want around your family, who you hang out with at work. You decide that based on a person's credibility. This is no different. The nature of the facts, the nature about the facts of which they testify, let's talk about that for a second. David, Melody's friend, who came in here talking about his one experience with Scott in the driveway in the trailer, he didn't really have the means and opportunity of knowing the facts surrounding that situation. He knew Melody for like a second. Scott didn't know who he was. You know what Scott knows? Scott knows Melody killed his dad and is running around with Rusty Barton still and letting strangers over to the house and throwing Christmas parties. Yeah, he's gonna be mad. His dad was just murdered and burned up in a burn pile on his own property by his mother. And now some strange man is coming and using his trailer. He's gonna be mad. David had no perception of that. Zero. And he has an interest in the outcome.
All right, pausing it right here. I'm going to bring in retired Lieutenant Mike Gould and get his final thoughts before we hit the break. Mike, so what do you think of the closing arguments by the state?
Yeah, Julie. So thus far, I'm not overwhelmed by it. I like when prosecutors and defense attorneys come out swinging. They're animated. They're passionate. So I think there's a lot of skepticism in my mind. I don't think this is going to be a unanimous jury based on just the limited things I know about the circumstantial evidence, the blood evidence. I don't see it. So I think if the defense attorney comes and plants more reasonable doubt, I think that's going to at least get a hung jury. I don't see a unanimous jury convicting her for murder in this case, whether she did it or not. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecutor, as I said, I'm not sitting at the end of my seat saying, aha, she's really nailed this. So it's kind of mundane at this point for me.
Lieutenant, tell me, what do you think about the kids sitting on the side of the state and not sitting behind their mother? What do you think that says to the jury members?
Yeah, no, so I do, but this was a very dysfunctional family. I mean, by all admissions, by the history of everybody lives in different things there. I don't feel a lot of love in this family at all. And again, that's just my takeaway. So I just think, and there may be plenty, I mean, for full disclosure, I know there was blood evidence, I know the cell phone evidence and stuff, but I see a lot of loopholes where a good defense attorney, the family, it's kind of a weird kind of, environment. They live on different floors. The kids live here. There's not a lot. I didn't see a lot of emotion here. So I think a juror, and again, if with people with conspiracy theories and all that, all you need is one person to, not accept this beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, that's true. All you need is one juror to hang that jury up, and then we've got a mistrial. So that's certainly what the defense would be going for here in let's say if they couldn't get a full-out acquittal. There's a lot of damaging evidence. I don't know if an acquittal is in her future, but we'll see. You never know what a jury's going to do, right? Lieutenant Mike Gould, great having you on the program this morning. Great having you with us. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
This case is about Gary Wayne Farris. And you're here because Melody Farris shot him, concealed his death by putting him on a burn pile on their property like he was trash.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm your host, Julie Grant. We are watching the all-important closing arguments in the burn pile murder case. The state is still in the middle of theirs. We hit the pause button right before we hit our break. Let's go back in together live.
He doesn't want to see his friend go to jail. We've talked about this. You must apply your common sense and reason to decide what testimony you believe or don't believe. Again, you weigh people's credibility all the time without even knowing it. The law allows you and demands that you determine who to believe and who not to believe. And some people, you can believe some things they say and not some things they say, right? Like Rusty Barton. He plays both sides. We know that. We saw that. He wants to stay out of trouble, yet he doesn't want to upset Melody. We know what he said was the truth about her statement, he's in the burn pile, because of the context in which he said it. We know the recantation is a lie because it makes no sense. Why, if she gave that statement at Martha Jane's house after Gary's remains were found, why would Rusty respond with, "Don't tell me anything else"? And he references that 2:20 a.m. call. And then the call you just heard, he references it again. And that was August 2nd of 2018. That is a witness. You'll have to resolve the conflicts of his credibility. But he was up there long enough, y'all know the kind of person he is. Use your common sense and reasoning. Now I want to talk to you about what she is charged with in the indictment. And you'll have a copy of the indictment in the back with all the charges in it. I'm going to start with 4 and 5. We've got malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, concealing the death of another, and making a false statement. I'm going to start from the bottom and then go to the more serious charges. Okay. First of all, let me say this. If the defense doesn't get up here and concede making a false statement, no credibility to that closing argument. Knowingly and willfully making a false statement in any matter within the jurisdiction of the government of any county. Like Michael Ray said in his opening, lying to the police. I lost count how many times that woman lied to those police. But specifically this charge is about being currently in an affair with Rusty Barton. And y'all heard that voicemail on June, I think it was 25th. It was like less than a week before Gary's remains were found. Call me back, love you. That affair didn't end a year before. She just saw the unraveling. She didn't even own up to any affairs. She lied about Ted Wiley. Oh, we were just friends. We were all just friends. We know that's not true. You literally left your husband and went to stay with him for a significant amount of time. And he had to take the stand and talk about their relationship. If they don't get up here and concede that, you can't give their closing any credibility. Concealing the death of another. Commit this crime by concealing the death of another, hindering the discovery of whether or not such person was unlawfully killed, i.e., putting a body in a burn pile to conceal that he was shot. going to go to count 1, malice murder. Causing the death of another person, in this case, Gary Farris, unlawfully and with malice aforethought. Malice. That's what this charge is about. Malice is doing something maliciously, which means you have an abandoned and malignant heart. Malice can be formed in an instant. Now, we have a lot of evidence of malice in this case. Malice is not premeditation or anything like that. It's not ill will or hatred, although we have hatred. She despised Gary. That's no secret. She intended to kill him without a legal justification. The state does not have to prove premeditation, although we have evidence of premeditation in this case. Taking that gun from Martha, telling Addison not to spend the night, she knew this day would come. There is no required time to form malice. Like I said, malice can be formed in an instant. Every time she saw Gary, she had malice. Felony murder is another type of murder, which essentially is when you cause the death of another during the commission of a felony. And in this case, that's aggravated assault. Aggravated assault will be defined in the next slide, but it's shooting someone or pointing a gun at someone. That's aggravated assault. And that caused the death of Gary Farris. We do not have to show in felony murder that Melody acted with malice, even though we know she did. This charge does not require malice. It just requires the commission of a felony and someone resulting in somebody dying. The judge will instruct you that aggravated assault is a felony. There needs to be what's called proximate cause to the death. So the felony has to have resulted somehow in the death or be connected to the death, which we have. The judge will give you a definition of a simple assault, so you know what assaulted means, assaulted another person with a deadly weapon. And he will also instruct you that a firearm legally is a deadly weapon. We do not have to prove injury, although we have that in this case. It's not required. You can assault a person by instilling fear, but that's not what we have here. We actually have a shooting, and we have a death. I want to talk about the state's burden. Like I said, reasonable doubt cannot be measured. They will want you to believe that that burden cannot be reached and it is unattainable. They will get up here and try to instill upon you that there's no way we can ever prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, that is just not the law. The law does not require beyond all doubt. We need order and justice, and that means we prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. You have more than what you need in this case to convict Melody Farris. I want to talk about grave suspicion in your presence because I assure you that Mr. Ray or Mr. Weaver will get up here and talk about how we just have grave suspicion of Melody. She was merely present at the home when he died. No. We have way more than that. What they have is a grave suspicion of Scott which is based on speculation and conjecture. And that's what that charge says. You cannot convict on speculation and conjecture. We can't even indict on speculation and conjecture. That's not even probable cause. Mere presence. Scott wasn't even merely present in the home. He was merely present at the barn. Compare the two, right? Grave suspicion, mere presence. Scott Farris, they have suspicion based on what? He's 6'5", he has a messy apartment, he was in the military. I'm sorry, is that a suspicion these days? Do we have to suspect everybody in the military is a murderer? Grave suspicion, speculation, and conjecture. That's what they're going to throw at you about Scott Farris. That was all their defense witnesses. Well, I just didn't like the way he talked to me. Well, I'm sorry his dad was brutally murdered by his mother. I think he's allowed to be angry. But Melody, we're here because Melody is sitting in that chair. And we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she is the one that murdered Gary Farris. The judge is going to instruct you on what impeaching a witness is. It's essentially showing that a witness is unworthy of belief.
Keep the great comments coming. I'm enjoying reading all of your thoughts on Twitter today as we're watching these closing arguments. Certainly opinions are split in the public realm on whether Melody Farris did this murder. Will they be split on the jury? That's the big question. We'll find out later today here on Court TV Live. We'll be right back with more of the closing arguments after this.
No man is born evil.
So you chose bad. On the next Interview with a Killer. You created the plan.
I didn't actually shoot her.
You did murder her, though.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Did it occur to you that you had just gone from troubled teen to teenage murderer? What was the plan?
She needed payback.
Payback with her life? Interview with a Killer. New episode Sunday, 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're on the final day of trial in the burn pile murder mystery case in Georgia. The prosecution going through its closing argument right now, touching on the law and the burden of proof that they carry in this case against Melody Farris. Can they meet it? Let's go back in.
Attack the credibility, and he'll give you all those charges in the jury charge. We saw some of that here. But you know, the person whose credibility that was attacked the most is Melody's. I mean, you saw Amanda sit on that stand, and Mr. Fogus showed her the text messages of Melody lying to her about going to Minnesota. Did you see Amanda's demeanor? Betrayal, disappointment. That's attacking her credibility. She's not worthy of belief. Amanda knows that. Her other children definitely know that. They sat up here and told you that. To that same vein, consider the source of a witness's information. If that witness's information is coming from Melody Farris, it is not worthy of belief. That's how you impeach someone. Every crime must be committed with criminal intent. To determine criminal intent, you can consider words of the defendant, conduct, demeanor, motive, and any other circumstance that you deem relevant. We have a lot of intent in this case. We even have a text message where she says, I told him I hope you die a gruesome death. If that's not direct evidence of intent, I don't know what is. Her demeanor when she found out about Rusty's statement, she was angry. She was mad at him. Her motive, she had plenty of motive. She's the only one that had motive. I've said this. She despised Gary. She hated that he was giving away their money, her money. That was the main motive. Rusty was a bonus. She was mad about that money. And you could tell that was her motive because after the offense, she was on a money hunt. It was all about the money. And we'll get into that in the next close. Telling Addison not to sleep over, she had criminal intent that night to kill her husband. And she, one, didn't want witnesses. Two, never told her grandkids that they could not spend the night. Telling people to, shh, I thought I told you to stop talking. Everything she said and did in this case not only proves that she committed these crimes, but she did it with malice aforethought and an abandoned, malignant heart. She stood to inherit all of his money. She burned the remains of her husband for almost 39 years in the hopes it would look like an accident. All because she wanted his money and to live a life with Rusty. In my next close, I'm going to talk about the evidence and why the evidence and the law demands a verdict of guilty in this case.
All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. I'm going to try to set up another microphone.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the state's closing argument in the Byrne Powell murder trial?